السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to another program of the Call of Ibrahim. Very briefly, we're talking about the rituals of Hajj from the book of Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz rahimahullah, At-Tahqiq wal-Idah. Very briefly, we're summarizing what is already summarized so that we can benefit from it, and for those who are going for Hajj and those who are not going for Hajj also to learn from it. We stopped where he talks about a chapter that talks about what the Hajj or the person making Hajj should do once they reach al-Miqat, once they reach the Miqat. The Mawaqit will be explained later. And what is meant by the Mawaqit is that the Prophet ﷺ made very specific spots that a person coming for Hajj and Umrah, they cannot cross these spots or what adjacent to it unless they are in state of al-Ihram. And we'll talk about the state of al-Ihram, which is some things becomes forbidden for the person to be in that state of al-Ihram to be able to perform Hajj and Umrah. But first he says, once a person reaches to the Miqat, it's recommended for the person to put perfume on and to take a shower, to make ghusl. And this can be done when a person, even before he leaves his home, because of the inconvenience when someone taking a plane or other transportations. And he also mentioned these types of advices also. But this is recommended because the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he would change his clothes to put on the ihram clothing, and also this will be explained inshallah ta'ala, that Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that she would put perfume on the Prophet ﷺ on his body, on his head, before he would put his ihram. It's very important to notice that it's not to be put on the clothing of al-ihram, but rather on the head. The Prophet ﷺ would put it on his head so that it's not on the clothing of al-ihram. So she would do that for the Prophet ﷺ, which shows also how the wife of the Prophet ﷺ and how the goodness between the husband and the wife, she would do that for the Prophet ﷺ. And also she would do that for the Prophet ﷺ before he would make the tawaf in the 10th day of the Hijjah, after the Prophet ﷺ relieve himself from the clothing of al-ihram, the first tahallul or the first relieving from al-ihram, which means everything becomes permissible except relations with women. So he would wear the normal clothing, so she would also put perfume on him so that he would smell good when he goes to make the tawaf around the Kaaba. And also the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded Aisha radiallahu anha when she made ihram for Umrah, is to take a shower and to make ghusl. Of course, the perfume is for men and not for women when she goes out in mixing with men. And also he commanded Asma bint Umays to do the same thing. And when she was in her menses, or when she after the birth bleeding, he commanded them to do whatever the people of Hajj would do except the tawaf. So if a woman is by the miqat and she's going for Hajj or Umrah, and she has menses, or she's having the afterbirth bleeding, she's not making salah, of course, but she does all of the rituals of Hajj except tawaf. This is the only thing that is forbidden for her to do till she is purified from the menses. And also this will be mentioned later inshallah ta'ala. Also it's recommended for those who put their ihram that they would trim their mustache, and they would trim their nails and their pubic hair and underarm hair, to shave or to plug the underarm hair if a person is not able to, then to shave, and to shave the pubic hair. The sunan al-fitra, the ways of al-fitra, the natural being of a person, to observe this of course before assuming the ihram, and to take whatever a person is in need. So that this is something done so that while in the days of al-ihram he doesn't have to shave or to take any hair, because it's forbidden once a person is in the state of al-ihram. And he talks about the fitra, which is something that we should always observe, as we mentioned. And this is he mentioned in the book. And also one of the sunan of al-fitra is to not to shave the beard, to grow the beard. And if a person is in ihram, it is not permissible for a person to take any of his hair on his body, including the beard. And the Sheikh rahimahullah, he gives a special attention here, and he says shaving the beard is haram, or to take anything from it to shorten it, to make it very short, because the Prophet ﷺ clearly stated, خَالِفُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ وَفِّرُوا اللِّحَى وَأَحْفُوا الشَّوَارِبِ. be different than the mushrikeen, than the polytheists. Make your beard full and trim your mustache. And in another narration, وَأَرْخُ اللِّحَى, let it go down. So to make it as the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And he said that this is one of the sad realities in our time being, that many people, many men, they shave their beards and they imitate the ways of the disbelievers, especially also for those who are out there teaching people the religion. People that are supposed to be people of knowledge. How can someone be a person of knowledge of the deen of Islam and he shave his beards? So he said, فَإِنَّ لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. To Allah we belong and to Allah we shall return. This is a musibah. He called it a musibah, a calamity, for someone to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially that he is someone that is out there to teach people the way of the Prophet ﷺ. And he make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ hold fast to the deen of Allah and to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Then he mentioned wearing for the male to wear the izar and the rida, the lower garment and the upper garment for al-ihram. And it's recommended to be white and to be clean and to wear sandals, not shoes, the normal shoes that we know, and meaning that there's nothing around the heels. So like the slippers where there's nothing around the heels. And as for the women, it's permissible for the women to make ihram in whatever color, black or green or whatever, with the condition that she's not imitating men, she's not wearing something that would attract others to her. And that's why he says some of the women, when they think that they need to make ihram or their clothing should be green or should be white or so, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. And then after cleaning oneself and wearing the clothing of al-ihram, a person should have intentions in his heart that he is entering the nusuk, the ritual of Hajj or Umrah, whether it's Hajj or Umrah, because deeds are by their intentions. As we know, this is a condition for the deed to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here in making Hajj and Umrah is to say it out loud, to say Labbayka Umrah, or Allahumma Labbayka Umrah if it's Umrah, or to say Labbayka Hajjan, or Allahumma Labbayka Hajjan if it's Hajj. The person is uttering the intention because the Prophet ﷺ did so. In any other ibadah, we don't say this. It's in the heart. So to say it because the Prophet ﷺ said it, but in the heart, the intention is in the heart. It's a deed done by the heart. And the best way to do it, as the Prophet ﷺ did so, is once he start moving after he put his ihram and clean himself and so on. So whether a person get into the bus or ride his mount, once he start leaving at the time of or the place of al-ihram, then he should do so. And this is in any other ibadah, it is not from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to speak out the intentions. And as for, as he says, the salah, the tawaf and so on, a person should not say anything of niyyah. He should not say, nawaitu, I have the intention to make the salah or to make this tawaf. This is from the bid'ah, this is from the innovations in the deen. And to make it out loud, it's even worse. And a person should stay away from this. None of the early generations of Islam had ever said something like this. And the worst of the matters are the newly invented matters in the religion. And this is how to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Afterwards, he talks about these mawaqit, these places, these specific places and what's adjacent to it, where a person coming to Mecca with the intention of Hajj and Umrah, they're not supposed to pass these mawaqit unless they are in state of al-ihram. We didn't talk yet about the details of what is forbidden for people to be when they're in the state of al-ihram. This will come later, inshallah ta'ala. But first, the mawaqit, there are 5 mawaqit, 5 places where the Prophet ﷺ specifically mentioned them in the hadith. The first one, the miqat of the people of Al-Madinah and those who come from the direction of Al-Madinah to Mecca, which is called Dhul Hulayfa, which is now known to be Abyar Ali, which is right outside of Al-Madinah. This is the longest distance that a person would take in the journey to Hajj if he's coming from Al-Madinah, because it's right outside of Al-Madinah. No one is to cross this unless they are in the state of Al-Ihram. The second one, which is called Al-Juhfa, which is the miqat, the place of the people of Ahl al-Sham, Palestine and Syria and above, and those who come from their direction, Egypt and North Africa, and those who come with the plane from that direction, some people coming from the west or the US, this is their miqat, this is their place, which is now, it's not something or a place that people are living in, which is next to Rabigh, and people are now making ihram, or the miqat is from Rabigh. So this is next to it, and again, it doesn't have to be the same spot, anything that is adjacent to it, as the Prophet ﷺ said. The third miqat is Qarnul Manazil, and this is the miqat of the people of Najd, those who are coming from Riyadh or so, and now it's called, the name of it is As-Sayl. The fourth one is Yalamlam. This is the miqat of the people of Al-Yaman and those who are coming from the south. And the fifth one is Datu Irq, and this is the miqat of the people of Al-Iraq and those who come from that direction. This is their miqat. These mawaqit, how did we get to know about them? From the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said clearly about them, هن لهن ولمن أتى عليهن من غير أهلهن ممن أراد الحج والعمرة. That means whoever is living or coming from before these mawaqit, then they should not pass it unless they are in state of al-ihram. And those who are living in these places or closer to the haram, then they make their ihram from their place. They don't have to go out to make their ihram if they are resident of any place that is closer to the haram or part of these mawaqit. So he mentioned also if someone is coming flying, taking an airplane to make Hajj or Umrah, coming to Jeddah or so, then a person should clean himself and take the shower and so on before, of course, being in the plane. And once he's closer to the miqat, and whether they announce it in the airplane or they don't, then it's your responsibility to know so. Whether a person wears his izar or rida, or he wears it before it, wear the clothing of al-ihram, but not to be in state of al-ihram till when a person is close to the miqat, then he would say the talbiyah, he would say the niyyah, and he becomes in the state of al-ihram. And this is, we have in the Prophet ﷺ the best example. And the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded us to follow his way and to take from him the manasik, the rituals of Hajj. As for those who go to Mecca, but they're not intended to make Umrah or Hajj, like the mailman, for example, or people, this is their work and so on, they don't have to be in state of al-ihram. If they do, this is recommended and they would make Umrah or so. But if they don't, then there's no harm on them whatsoever. And those who, again, as we said, those who live closer to the haram from these mawaqit, then their ihram is from their spot. And whoever wants to make Umrah, they have to go out of Mecca, from Mecca to the Hill, not to the mawaqit, but to the outside of Mecca, to make Umrah from these spots. As the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded Aisha radiallahu anha when she wanted to make Umrah, is to go to where it's now called Masjid Aisha, to make ihram again. And this is not in the mawaqit. The mawaqit is far away, but right outside of Mecca, whether it's Tan'im or Ju'rana, to make ihram for Umrah and then to come back. He also mentioned those who make frequent Umrah after Umrah and so on, especially after Hajj. This is something that is recommended. It makes it inconvenient for people. And when the Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha to do that because she did not make her Umrah from the beginning because of the menstruation. So if a woman have the same excuse, she can do that after Hajj. But other than that, people should be busy with the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not to keep on making the frequent Umrah after Umrah as he mentions here. We'll stop here inshallah ta'ala, and then next time we'll talk about what happened when people come to the miqat or to these mawaqit, whether they are in the months of Hajj or if they're not in the months of Hajj. So till next time, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for everyone and to accept their deeds. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك